Hi, everyone. Welcome to Unchained, your no-hype resource for all things crypto. I'm your host, Laura Shin, a journalist with over 2 decades of experience. I started covering crypto 6 years ago, and as a senior editor at Forbes, was the first mainstream media reporter to cover cryptocurrency full-time. This is the November 30th, 2021 episode of Unchained. My book, The Cryptopians, Idealism, Greed, Lies, and the Making of the First Big Cryptocurrency Craze, is available for pre-order on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, or any of your other favorite bookstores. Go to bit.ly/cryptopians. That's bit.ly/CRYPTOPIANS and pre-order today. Brave Wallet is the first secure wallet built natively in a Web3 crypto browser with no extension required. You can store, manage, and grow your crypto portfolio all from a safer wallet. Visit brave.com/unchained to get started. The Nodal Cash app makes earning crypto on your smartphone as easy as turning on your Bluetooth. Nodal Cash is private, secure, and available on iOS and Android. Visit nodal.io/unchained. That's nodle.io/unchained to start earning Nodal Cash. Buy, earn, and spend crypto on the Crypto.com app. New users can enjoy 0 credit card fees on crypto purchases in the first 30 days. Download the Crypto.com app and get $25 with the code LAURA, link in the description. Today's guests are Anatoly Yakovenko and Raj Gokal, co-founders of Solana Labs. Welcome, Anatoly and Raj.
Awesome to be here.
Thanks for having us.
So you and Solana have had quite the year. Sol started the year at less than $2, and it's currently trading at over 200. The market cap went from $86 million at the beginning of the year to $68 billion. So how do you guys feel about Solana's trajectory so far in 2021?
Pretty good, right? Could be better.
Yeah, I mean, it's good. It's good to see, the thesis play out. I think it's the original one was that if crypto took off and if its value propositions found product market fit, and if any of the dreams of what a world computer, a global permissionless distributed ledger, if any of those dreams could come true, then the demand would be 1,000 or 10,000x what we had seen before, and it would happen really fast. And I think that's what's been happening over the last couple of years. And Anatoly's design for Solana, the network, is pretty well suited to that demand and all the use cases. And I think the best part is just seeing people have that, I think of it as like the iPhone moment, that moment where you see the transaction propagate, you see, an account balance change from one browser window to another, or from your browser to your phone, and it's just instant, and there were effectively no fees. And I think we're going to have more and more of those experiences that just feel really magical. And I think that's the most exciting part to me.
And Anatoly, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I'm an engineer, so it's just really cool to see people use your work. And the last hackathon, having almost 600 teams form just blew my mind, because that was more than all the other hackathons combined. During our conference, so many developers just wanted to talk to me and shake my hand, and it's just I love those vibes. I'm a nerd. It's just cool.
Yeah, I get you. I'm a nerd. I'm not an engineer, but I'm a nerd. So Anatoly, you were on the show before and you kind of gave your background then, but maybe for listeners who didn't hear the episode, why don't you kind of give a brief recap of it? And then obviously, Raj, you have not been on the show before, so we can also have you give yours and you guys can kind of talk about how you came together.
Yeah, the briefest background is I'm a Qualcomm engineer that wanted to build a high performance blockchain, and here we are.
Okay.
How can I be brief too?
You haven't been on the show before, so you can flesh it out a little bit more if you like.
Sure. I met Raj along the way, and here we are.
Yeah, my background originally was in finance and venture capital. So I started at General Catalyst Partners in Boston. That was, entrepreneurs, investing in entrepreneurs, people that had built, a lot of big internet companies and Lotus Notes, and I'd seen every cycle in the tech business before. And then I started a company in health tech called Sano, which was a glucose sensor company that's going to be hitting the market soon. It got acquired later. And then I was at Omada Health, which was an A16Z backed company and sold into health insurance companies with behavioral health intervention, connected scale and pedometer and health coach. So I think really like before crypto, my journey was building products in the heavily regulated, slow, really untouched by technology, like healthcare industry, and seeking the wedge to rebuild that industry from the ground up, the way that we had seen, entertainment and media and and newspapers and message boards and just everything get rebuilt so many times. I think I wanted to see healthcare get rebuilt, and then left Omada thinking about building another health tech company, and met Anatoly. And I think Toly gave me the confidence that all those weird engineers that I had talked to and all those experiments I had seen in crypto over the prior 5 or 6 years had a chance at really finding their moment and reaching a billion people, and that the world would look a lot better that way. So my journey in crypto jumping in was just basically trying to get everything out of Anatoly's way and help him build a team and get the funding that that could get this project off the ground.
Okay. So at this moment, just in terms of crypto history, I'm sure you're all very well aware that the ecosystem is just kind of diversifying in a lot of different ways in terms of the way this technology is being applied. Obviously we started with kind of like basic transactions and payments, and then it sort of went to trading and DeFi, NFT art, NFT gaming, DAOs. In the last week, suddenly everybody's talking about DAOs again. Obviously now social with your announcement about Alexis Ohanian wanting to investing $100 million into building social media in Solana. So I'm just curious that in general, do you see Solana as focusing in any of these particular niches, or do you just see Solana as being sort of a go-to platform for all kinds of crypto use cases and people will just do with it whatever they like?
I think it's general, and I always have this dream of a billion people with self-custody signing stuff. Doesn't matter what it is, doesn't matter what they're doing. I just want them to have possession of those keys and kind of have that mental model. These are my magic words. I'm signing with them. It's doing stuff in this one shared global experience that's cryptographically controlled. That's like the overall kind of vision, and it's not super well formed because I kind of feel it's the same vision as 1995 web people had about the internet. It's going to be a billion people in the web. They're all going to be publishing stuff and clicking links. What does that mean? Nobody knows, right? But we got to build it. We got to build it as fast as we can. And I think all the experiments like DAOs, NFTs, all those things that get people to try this stuff, these are all worthwhile to do. It doesn't matter really right now what the use cases are, as long as you're engaging people, getting them to do this and getting them to self-custody and start participating in these networks.
And Raj, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still so early, and even just the idea of people participating with art and collectibles and having a direct relationship to artists, and then building communities around those art collections, and that being the onboarding path for most users to participate in DeFi for the first time or collect their money towards things like buying the Constitution. It's too unpredictable to act like there is one vertical that's going to dominate all crypto usage and adoption. And if Anatoly's vision of unpredictable but beautiful things happening when a billion people understand their ability to sign transactions directly is the goal, then whatever path to get there, I think, is what we're focused on helping get off the ground. And at this point, it's not even, I think, Solana Labs or any one actor in the ecosystem that's fostering these different use cases. They're just emerging as fast as we can think of them, and as fast as, one team can find product market fit for anything like a new, gaming economic design, or, a new format for collectibles and bringing IP on chain. As soon as any of them finds value, I think what we're finding is that original thesis of performance mattering for every use case is just continually playing out, right? It's always better if it's cheaper and faster and higher throughput. And I think the part that we're just starting to see is how composability between vastly different use cases creates more opportunity for serendipity and emergent use cases that may not have existed before.
Okay, so you're not like trying to position yourself as the platform that is better for one of these use cases over another. Because I feel like early on it kind of was maybe a little bit more about like high frequency type of things, or just more about that throughput. But now you're sort of like, well, whatever people want to do with it is.
So the high frequency finance, this idea of like a price discovery engine, blockchain and NASDAQ speed, that was always like, that's the obvious. That's got to work. Like if that doesn't work, then we're totally wrong. And that was the tip of the spear. But like I kind of realized as we were building this that what like you're not gonna, like there's this idea of the web being run by the ad exchange. That's a centralized market, steal your data, right? Then they try to keep you on a platform and feed you data you don't want. That loop is driven by that ad market. Solana runs markets, right? If we can replace that market with other markets, let's say for people trading NFTs, then that's also finance, right? That's also high frequency finance, because for that even to be a possibility, the decentralized market that's for NFTs needs to be as cheap as the ad exchange. It needs to be at that like micro cent, level of transaction costs for that even to be a remote possibility. So it's not that I think we're going to see NASDAQ shut down and all the stocks started trading on Solana, is that the rest of the world that's going to start using permissionless decentralized marketplaces for coordination, for content creation, for monetizing artists directly, that's going to grow so much faster than you'll forget about the other stuff. It's just going to be like the most boring place. NASDAQ is going to be the most boring place in the world.
The way that I think about it is, or I guess what I've learned, I think Toli and I have learned together, and like the whole crypto industry is learning, is that everything is finance and everything is a marketplace. And every marketplace can be disintermediated and made more efficient with blockchain. And when you do that, it's better if it's faster and cheaper. So, I mean, I think in a way, like it's still DeFi. It's just we're learning that everything is DeFi.
Huh. Okay, I like that. That's interesting. And it makes sense to a certain extent, which I'll ask you about in a little bit. But I did want to ask, if you're saying that, you're not trying to target specific niches for the $314 million fund that you guys raised this past summer. Are you focusing that in any particular area? Like, I'm sure there must be a way that you're allocating it, So I was curious about maybe the percentages or, yeah.
It's not thesis, it's really people driven. It's like you find that founder that's like has that look in their eyes. I'm going to get 100 million people to do this thing on blockchain. And those are the people that like we those are the people we're looking for. Those are the people we try to back. And all we try to do is just get stuff out of the way. Is it tech? Then we get the tech out of the way. Do they need funding? Either, we invest, or usually we don't even get a chance to invest because there's so many hungry VCs now making the same bets. And like our goal is to just like find those people and help them.
Okay. All right. Well, so I'm sure, and this goes back to what we were saying about, fast and cheap is really good. However, obviously Solana did go offline in September for 18 hours when you had these bots that were spamming the network to try to get in on this initial decentralized exchange offering. What were your takeaways from what happened then?
That people know who we are, because the amount of tweets that I got from people that are enjoying other blockchains was was insane. I got a lot of opinions about that. What was interesting to me as an engineer was how quickly the validators, because we stress test them all the time on this. Like the whole point of beta was that once the network runs, that they should be able to recover it no matter what happens. Like arbitrary failure, something goes wrong, all the data centers are set on fire, these state level attacks that people talk about. There's always some way to recover it. And we test the validators on this at least once a month on a test net. But never like it never got tested live. And this was them doing it on their own and it works. And that was like, cool. We can actually like it's done. Like we can walk away and it'll keep running forever as long as people wanted to keep running. So that to me was really cool to see. The other takeaway, obviously, was that like we did a pretty good job, I think, like with how fast people were able to respond and start debugging and like seeing the issues. I feel like I don't know what other lesson did I learn? Do we need to move slower or do we need to move faster? Probably should be moving faster. The opportunity to like onboard the next billion users is just so huge that like this stuff kind of might happen. It sucks. There are people that know how to fix it. And, we got to keep our eye on the most important target, which is get people to use blockchains.
And so the fix that you put in at the time was something like just making sure that the messages regarding consensus were always prioritized. And please feel free to correct me if I'm.
There's like there was so much spam that some of the validators were starting to see like physical link line failures. Basically, they were overwhelmed with spam before a block producer can create a block. So a previous attack called the Shanghai attack on Ethereum was actually an attack at the block level, that a block producer was making blocks that were so big that they were overwhelming the network. This was prior to that, before a block producer could even make a block, somebody was spamming the networks with so many transactions that things were starting to run out of memory. It was taking so long to catch up. And effectively, as soon as more than a third of the nodes kind of ran out of memory and crashed and couldn't catch back up to the network while the network was still trying to propose forks, the validators recognized, okay, this is maybe unattainable without us clearing out all of the dead forks and just kind of like letting the network continue from the last confirmed point, if that makes sense. So the fix was just better prioritization prior to creating these blocks and being able to drop messages when there's a flood without losing consensus. So yeah, effectively what you described. I don't want to get into the details because you got to go dig through the code for the exact actual changes.
But was that fix sufficient for the long term, or was it just kind of like a temporary patch, or like, like, is there more that you could do now or are doing now to kind of prevent that in the future, or was that patch like pretty much it?
For that, there's as an engineer, I can tell you that there's no generic fix that could fix all attack vectors. There's specific fixes for specific attack vectors. And this one was actually tested. There's been a bunch of other floods and attacks similar to that since that. So far, seems like we did the right changes, and so far things are working. But it's unknown whether there's some corner case that could also do another resource exhaustion and cause the network to stall.
Okay, and I actually don't know because you mentioned the Shanghai attacks on Ethereum, and obviously what saved the blockchain at that time was that it had multiple clients. And I'm not sure in Solana, what is the situation with that? Do you have multiple clients or is there just a single one?
There's a single client, and eventually multiple clients will be a thing. That's just, early days.
So the block reported that at Solana Breakpoint, which was your recent conference, that when asked about Solana going offline during that time, that you said it doesn't matter if the next block takes 72 hours to process. But it only matters for people who need transactions to happen in milliseconds. Can you elaborate a little bit more on your thoughts?
Yeah, so there's like two issues, right? Like, are my funds safe? Am I safe, right, as a Bitcoin holder? somebody from that use case, folks that care about like just keeping their funds safe, those outages are pain in the ass, but they're not like, they never risk the person's funds. So if you have a bunch of USDC, right, you self-custody your keys, there's a network outage, it doesn't really matter because Circle has custody of their ledger. That copy of the ledger is not affected. And the network can continue from arbitrary failures as long as there's at least one node, like Circle, some dApps or PC node, anybody in the world that has a valid copy that can repopulate the network and let it continue. So no matter what, right, state level attack, whatever people imagine, there's always an escape hatch. The issue is that works for like, I'm just sitting on my funds and not doing anything with them. And I don't care if I get to transact today or tomorrow. But reality is that all applications that are real world applications need to send their messages now. They need them to be cheap and fast and arrive right within a short amount of time. And this is why they even want to use blockchain in the first place. The reality is that like for real world use cases, liveness is the most important thing. That's the thing that needs to be, extremely high confidence with, 9 nines of uptime.
Okay. So I'm sure you probably saw this tweet, but at that time, Neha Narula of the MIT Digital Currency Initiative tweeted, if your validator community can easily coordinate for a network restart, what's to prevent them from coordinating to block transactions or contracts when compelled to by the SEC? What's your response to that question?
Feels like people are saying disorganization is a requirement for decentralization. I think that's a little strange. The thing is that like the way that they operate isn't a way to compel them to do anything. They don't have a choice to like process one set of transactions or another. They approve blocks. If there's a block proposer with a set of transactions, it's opaque to them what they are, right? At the end of the day, the folks that interpret those bits in the validator and display to the human that these are dollars or these are coins or these are securities or not securities, right? At that point of the interface, this is where somebody says, this thing you're trading or this thing you're signing, that thing has value. That's where regulation should occur, not at like the AT&T network switch level, right? So, because the validators, they're basically running a switch. They run a box, the box run autonomously. They make sure that it stays up, and that's it. Like, what other like actions do they take?
And yeah, Raj, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I think the question's been answered like 100 times on podcasts and interviews and Twitter. The most annoying thing about the outage is just the reception from people that aren't actually using the network and the way that they have chosen to conflate that issue with one that is, catastrophic to the network or that would result in a loss of funds or one that would, cause an exodus of users or developers. And we've seen none of that, right? It just hasn't happened. I think of it in terms of the consequence to the network and the reputation of the network. I think it's as significant as the Twitter fail whale was when Twitter was seeing its first big waves of explosive user growth. Yeah, there were days where it was, all you saw was a fail whale. It was an icon that said, we couldn't handle this much load, this moment at this stage of growth of the network. But, the moment it was back, everyone comes back, they're using it. They're prepared to deal with those fail whale moments. And over time, the platform stabilizes and, the end state of growth and adoption is not 100 times, what it was 2 days before or 4 days before. At some point, you've grown past those growing pains. I think we're just, seeing growing pains in the network. And when we talk to people that actually use the network and that, that have built for it and have built, some of the largest and most well-adopted applications, these are not catastrophic or existential issues for them. It's more the perception and, how repetitive the narrative around it is that starts to become an issue. But there are worse things to deal with in life.
Yeah, I did see Chris Dixon tweet that there will always be more demand for block space than there is block space. I think he actually tweeted this in reference to some tweets about Ethereum this weekend, which we will discuss later. But I think it also applies in this case. And frankly, I think in a way, though, one thing that is interesting to me is that I do think the reason that Solana fell victim to this attack by bots is because the blockchain is so cheap. So I don't know if you have any response to that.
That was the attack vector was before you could even check if the transactions that were being proposed by these bots could pay for the usage. So it's really before a block producer could even like make a decision. Are these things valid? It didn't really actually impact the block level level of constraints that you see in Ethereum or other EVM chains. So even before we could even execute things, there was just kind of a flood of messages across the network that started to grow in size because the number of pending transactions to evaluate was just queued up. You can think of it as a mempool. So when all these queues blew up, validators ran out of memory and crashed. And that was the bug. That the thing wasn't like capped and it wasn't doing just some simple quality of service. And I can only get blame myself.
But what about that point about how it was so cheap? Are you saying that now because there is a check on how much funds they have, that then that kind of attack wouldn't be possible? Or I mean, it wasn't a purposeful attack. It was
so if the block producer had resources to evaluate all those transactions, nearly all of them would be dropped because they were invalid.
Oh, I see. Okay, so basically,
it was just basically pre-block, not like invalid transaction spam, effectively.
Okay, so that's why at this point, then this is no longer an issue. Okay, so I also saw that CoinDesk reported that at Solana Breakpoint, a lot of attendees saw Solana as a chance to make money and don't really care about decentralization. And the author called these people trading mercenaries, or sorry, I think it was the attendee, and said they found other people like them that were there. And so I'm assuming you probably don't agree with that characterization of the community. But I was wondering, assuming that's at least some part of that is true, how do you make this momentum that you currently have for Solana sustainable?
Just go hang out at the hacker house or at the developer side of the conference. That was where I was getting all my energy. Just like talking to Armani, to Bartosz, Daffy, all the folks building like these awesome apps that are growing in users. That was really, really cool. And like during that, just during the hackathon, I like walked into the house for the first time. It was packed with people just coding. And like on this whiteboard, somebody scribbled like a prize for like 50K prize to go build something. So, it's that energy of people that I just want to build is there, and all the other kind of folks that come in and out of crypto, the coin enjoyers. It's fine. It's just part of life. I don't know.
The event organizers maybe did too good a job of keeping all the speculators away from the hackers. I think most folks who had that perception of Breakpoint didn't even know that there was a hacker house or that there were two other venues where teams were forming and building, and it was just like sweat and tears and monitors and whiteboards. A lot of those teams aren't looking for funding, so they weren't exactly trying to go shake hands and introduce themselves to a bunch of investors. But speculation is absolutely a powerful force in the existence and the progress that crypto has made to date, right? I mean, none of this exists without people speculating about the value that's going to get created. And the speculators now have seen enough cycles to know that the place they should be spending their time is where developers are spending their time. And the reason there are a lot of speculators investing and interested in the Solana ecosystem is because the developer ecosystem is exploding. If it wasn't, they wouldn't be here. They wouldn't have shown up to Breakpoint. I would like to see the industry have a little more, respect for people that are capital allocators. There have been years where it was difficult to do it and difficult to stick through. And I know the Solana ecosystem has had a lot of capital allocators that have been very patient capital, very thesis driven capital. And, if they're still showing up, and, flying to Lisbon and spending time with all these hackers and trying to, be helpful, I think is not something that should be shamed.
And when you talk to developers, what in particular attracts them to Solana over other smart contract platforms?
That is a good question, because usually our motto is you're going to have to eat some glass to build an application. I don't, I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that it is a from scratch rebuild of a high performance blockchain, that it's all new tech. And that means it's rough around the edges. And to some people, that's a hurdle. But to folks that are like, this is cool technology, I can see why you made these choices. I can see like you were principled about what you were doing, and they like get it. They actually want to build on top, and it's an opportunity to like build awesome things like Anchor, right? We didn't build an SDK because we didn't have time or resources to do so. And we just built a really, really fast blockchain. And when people saw that, one of those people was this awesome dev Armani that like moved mountains basically, single-handedly built like probably like I think one of the most popular developer tools in all of crypto now, just for Solana. So things like that, I think, are, engineers, like, you can't like really sell to them. It's got to tickle their curiosity. Got to show them that there's something interesting there, that they can use this as a tool to build thing that they're imagining, that kind of like they can barely reach and get there.
That makes sense. Yeah, that's I totally understand that. So in a moment, we're going to talk more about kind of where Solana fits in compared to some other similar blockchains. But first, a quick word from the sponsors who make this show possible. Join over 10 million people using Crypto.com, the easiest place to buy, earn, and spend over 150 cryptocurrencies. New users enjoy zero credit card fees on crypto purchases in their first 30 days. With Crypto.com Earn, you can get industry-leading interest rates of up to 8.5% on over 40 coins, including Bitcoin, and earn up to 14% on stablecoins. With the Crypto.com Visa card, you can spend your crypto anywhere. Enjoy up to 8% cash back instantly, plus 100% rebates for your Netflix, Spotify, and Amazon Prime subscriptions, and 0 annual fees. Download the Crypto.com app and get $25 with the code LAURA. Link in the description. With Nodal Cash, you can earn crypto on your mobile device for free with no hardware to purchase. You just download the Nodal Cash app, turn on your Bluetooth, and start earning. Nodal Cash is private, secure, and easy to earn, whether you're on the go, stuck in traffic, or even while you're sleeping. You can even repurpose your old smartphones to earn Nodal Cash. Visit nodal.io/unchained to get started. That's nodle.io/unchained. Join the Citizen Network to earn crypto on your smartphone 24/7. Web3 means freedom from big tech and Wall Street with more controls and better privacy. But your crypto wallet is a weak point. Most wallets are browser extensions, a Web2 technology. That means the same old risks: app spoofing, phishing scams, and theft. Brave Wallet is different. Brave Wallet is the first secure wallet built natively in a Web3 crypto browser with no extension required. With Brave Wallet, you can buy, store, send, and swap assets, manage your portfolio, and NFTs. You can see real-time CoinGecko data built right into your dashboard and connect other wallets and other Web3 dApps, all from the security of the most popular privacy browser on the market. Whether you're new to crypto or a seasoned pro, it's time to ditch those risky extensions and switch to Brave Wallet. Get started at brave.com/unchained. Back to my conversation with Anatoly and Raj. So, as I'm sure you're very well aware, Solana is often seen as competitive with Ethereum, How do you see the two blockchains in the future? Do you just see them as coexisting? Do you see them as taking different niches? Do you see them as kind of like competing head to head and one of them coming out on top? Like, what does that future look like to you?
Probably all of the above.
Well, some of these scenarios are mutually exclusive.
Not all at the same time, but there's, like settlement is just a feature, right? Like all Byzantine fault tolerant systems that have smart contracts also do settlement. So when this idea that people talk about settlement layer for Ethereum, well, every blockchain does settlement. That's just a feature, right? So what does that mean for Ethereum? Those are like questions in terms of like where are people going to go, what chains are they going to use, where the benefits and compounding effects start to accrue. It's hard to know where that stuff plays out. You can kind of see multiple futures where there is a global settlement layer called Ethereum. There is a global execution layer called Solana, and those are symbiotic, right? But you could also see a future where, well, settlement's just a feature. I'm going to deploy my coin at the cheapest possible settlement layer because I don't want to extract any value from my users, right? Like, so you as somebody that's building these decentralized organizations, where do you want to do work, right? Where do you want to collaborate? Where do you want to coordinate your community? That place, do you want it to be minimally extractive? Like, do you want it to be the cheapest, fastest place or something else? So those decisions people are going to make, and we'll see how it plays out. Those are unknown unknowns. I know what we're building is a really, really fast, high performance execution layer, but settlement is a feature of that thing too.
And Raj, do you have an opinion on this?
Hard to know how the world ends up playing out. Yeah, I mean, I think Ethereum has like 4 times as much Lindy effect as Solana, and that Lindy effect has incredible value. So, right now most of the assets are on Ethereum, and I think one of the biggest reasons for that is that there's a first mover advantage. There's an amount of trust that continues to build up over time as the network persists without any catastrophic failures or loss of funds or major consensus failures, and that's only time can make up for that. And Solana will always be younger than Ethereum. At least the proof of work version of Ethereum. So, I mean, I think the biggest difference between the two right now is that one is proof of work and one is proof of stake, and one came, several years before the other. And as long as that has value, and those two, designs have different purposes and functions, that they'll both continue to be valuable.
And I know that you tweeted before, Ethereum cannot be killed. It's impossible. And it's already a beautiful force of good in the world, empowering millions and creating billions in wealth. Bitcoin is quite obviously the same. And this tweet was in response to someone who I guess had been framing kind of the competition between the blockchains. And well, you basically, after you finished this tweet, as stop framing it as a fight. So how do you prefer to frame what's happening here, where we do have, these multiple smart contract layer ones kind of trying to all gain market share at the same time? It's like Solana, Polkadot, Avalanche, Algorand, Near, which by the way is a former sponsor of my show, and then Ethereum. So what's your take on?
They're all growing, right? Every single one of those platforms is growing right now. And we all still feel like we're just at the beginning, right? I think we all feel like there's possibility for a 1000x of the space in the next year or two. So, each of those platforms has 1000x opportunity, and I don't think any of them is going to capture all 1000x of it, right? So I think the thing we should be focused on is how do we make sure that 1000x happens? What are all the forces that keep that 1000x from happening? And let's make it happen as fast as possible. And the same way that we trained billions of people to use QWERTY keyboards and mouse and usernames and passwords and subject lines and email addresses, right? It's all complicated stuff. That's the focus, is let's get everyone learning this new complicated piece of technology that generally looks and works the same no matter what platform you're on. let's get a billion people or 4 billion people using it as fast as we can. And the market will decide the division of value and market share for different platforms based on their performance characteristics or usability or cultural focus. But I think we should just be focused on making at least some of these blockchain dreams come true as fast as possible. And whatever technology helps people get there faster and get over that hump, I think we should all be getting behind, including Ethereum, Bitcoin, Solana, everything else.
I'm a competitive person. I like the competition, not in the sense that I ever want to kill my opponent, right? I want to have a good battle and I want to learn from it. So I think like the really cool thing about crypto is so widely different than working at a big tech firm is that everyone is really open. Almost all of the, at least all the top chains, the folks you mentioned, they're all open source first. They publish their ideas. They want people to kind of get behind what they're building, their technical vision. They're effectively giving away their secrets, right? There's no trade secrets here. They're not hiding their tech. And all of these things are now available to everyone else, right? There's no reason why Solana couldn't borrow the tech that the Ethereum folks is researching right now and implement sharding. Not that I'm saying that will ever happen, because I have my own vision, but there's also no reason why the Ethereum folks can't look at what we're doing, what we accomplished through and shipped, and be like, okay, this is actually a really good way to scale the execution layer, right? That's all open. That competition is really accelerating how quickly things get built, how quickly products ship, how quickly adoption happens. It's awesome.
So Neon Labs is building an Ethereum virtual machine on Solana, and there's already a number of apps dApps that plan to deploy on the Neon EVM. Once that's in place, what do you think will happen to the Ethereum market share when it comes to DeFi?
What do you mean? Like, do you think Ethereum do you think folks are going to just jump ship and leave Ethereum and go to Neon? I mean, I hope that happens, but
for DeFi on Ethereum, I do wonder that, right? Because if we're just looking at throughput and block time, like all those things, like those are what I would imagine would be the features that would attract, DeFi even more so than things like NFTs. NFT art, NFT gaming is a different story. But it's just, I'm sure you can see where I'm going with this. It just sort of looks a little bit more purpose built for that use, right?
I think that people like leaving Ethereum is just never going to happen. Like those folks that built Ethereum, like Kane, like Stani, they're going to stay there, and that's fine. And those applications may be multi-chain, but those are true Ethereum devs, and Neon can help them accelerate. Like there's some people that are like, hey, I want to run Aave on Neon, and that's going to happen. And those folks will participate in those in those protocols. But I think reality is that what should happen is that the benefits of EVM and Solana is that you can start building new applications in Solidity running in EVM that can now take leverage and participate in the broader Solana ecosystem, right? They can call out to Serum. And that's a new set of applications that are going to grow on Solana. It's just really rare that you see somebody like abandon and move, right? Like what you see, or what real success looks like is if the new thing just outgrows the old. And that's far more likely. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, so I didn't necessarily mean, because you said like if you didn't expect Stani would leave Ethereum. So this refers to Stani Kuleshov, who founded Aave, and Aave is going to deploy on Neon EVM. But I didn't necessarily mean that he would stop building on Ethereum, but more that for whatever total value locked is in Aave, that we might see quite a big flow. Well, I don't know. You tell me.
It's game theory optimal for anybody, who now has a path to not have to fork their development team and spread its focus over two different languages. to be able to franchise their brand to any new chain where users are being acquired. Because if they don't, then somebody else will do it, right? They'll fork it, they'll launch it on that chain, they'll have a name that probably rhymes, and they'll try and eat that new segment of users and market because the original team wasn't going after it. So I think it's not a cultural question or a values question. It's just game theory. It's optimal for them to do that. But then I think you are onto something, because if you look at Brave, and what Brendan Eich has decided to do is, even if there is a franchise of an Ethereum-based application on Solana that's deployed on Neon, and it's on multiple EVM chains, they've chosen to default to the Solana version in in the Brave wallet and the Brave swap interface, because they see value in the user accounts and balances all being simple and unified for the end user. So there's pretty clear value to an end user, and I think if you see more platforms taking that stance on Neon deployed versions of originally Ethereum based applications, you could see some meaningful movement, but we don't know yet, right?
Yeah, actually, when do you expect that will be finished?
2022 sometime. You're talking about Brave or Neon or what?
No, sorry, yeah, Neon.
Neon should be going live within a few weeks, I think.
Oh wow! Okay.
They're in the final stretch of. I don't know. I hope I didn't leak anything, but like they're in the final stretch. From what I can tell as an engineer, they're basically just in the final stretch of getting stuff done.
Okay.
So we might see it like by the end of the year. That would be good. That'd be a good Christmas present.
Okay, so maybe I'll get an answer to my question sooner than I thought. So in contrast, when it comes to NFTs, I don't know if you were aware, NFTs on Ethereum are, well, you probably are aware, are seen as higher value than those on Solana. And there was an NFT artist who I interviewed for a panel that I did where he said he got a grant to create NFTs on Solana, but his collectors were like, oh, we wouldn't want to buy in Solana. We prefer to buy on Ethereum. And I was curious what your take is on that.
So this is partly why I think this idea of like mass exodus from Ethereum is just never going to happen, because you have core Ethereum users that hold ETH. To them, honestly, the gas prices are in ETH. They're not that expensive because they have a bunch of ETH. They don't look at it as dollars spent, right? Because they're not speculators. They're ETH users. They have a bunch of ETH, and they're spending a small fraction of their ETH to acquire NFTs for much larger amounts of ETH. And that user base is there. What you need to actually grow is a native Solana based user base that is here because they like Solana, they like Phantom, they want to participate in this community and do stuff here. So this is why I think it's hard to know where things flip, right? Like who's growing new users faster is probably the most important metric than who is able to get liquidity mining rewards and pull TVL from Aave on one EVM chain to another.
And so do you know how would you measure who's getting more users faster? That's really hard.
We see our metrics, the stuff that Phantom folks report. It's over 1 million monthly active users, and
it's about 1.4 now. So it's bumping by like 100 or 150,000 a week.
And those are not MetaMask users. So there is
well, some of them I'm sure are.
But for what we can tell, they're not. So
oh, really?
Some are, but we it's hard to tell. But that's anecdotally what we see is new people coming into the space that are trying crypto for the first time through Phantom, and that's their first experience.
Wow, wait. How do you know that they don't also have Ethereum wallets?
This is based on just feedback that I'm getting from folks on Twitter. So I don't know, right? But this is anecdotally, hey, this is my first time trying doing self-custody, doing DeFi. The first time I tried it was on Solana, and I tried MetaMask, and oh my God, this is not what I want.
Oh, wow. Wait, like they find MetaMask more difficult to use?
Correct. Yeah, because the
I
experience
think
with
that's pretty
Phantom is pretty slick.
uncontroversial, right? Yeah, I've never seen negative feedback on Phantom. Almost 100% positive feedback, and every time I've seen a review of it, what I hear is that it's the best wallet in the industry, and that's never changed. And then I think at some point, like anecdotal, or I guess like survey data, both on developers and users, started to cross past the 50% threshold of like, more than 50% of the developers building on Solana had never written a smart contract before, and same with end users.
Wow, that's great. And so then how are they finding out about, because like I guess I would have just imagined that a lot of people come to crypto through, Bitcoin and Ethereum, which are the two main things that, everybody kind of knows about, and then they kind of branch out. So then how are they coming kind of more directly
The
to
whole I feel like the whole industry knew this was going to happen for like a year and a half, that NFTs were going to be something that people would learn about before they even care that it's on blockchain, before they know it's on Ethereum or Solana or anything. All they know is that there's some, dank memes and pictures and collectibles and, an ounce of culture, and something important that they can own. And as they build that understanding and start to engage with those things, I mean, from what I've heard, a lot of people are interacting with Phantom, buying NFTs that their friends turn them on to, using Solana, and they don't even know what Solana is. They haven't heard of Solana, the network. So
They heard of
yeah, I mean,
Phantom though, so they're like,
they
what?
know Phantom because Phantom's the extension they open up, and soon they'll know, that it's the app that they open up. That's what people care about.
that is great. I love that. Yeah, because actually, what I was going to ask you was, I don't know if you saw this tweet, but that collector G Money tweeted that buying a Solana punk was like buying a fake Chanel bag. And
Yeah.
yeah, okay, I'm glad you guys are laughing. But
I'll agree. I think
I mean, it kind of is, yeah, like a soul punk. But I think the Solana Monkey business and the DGen Ape Academy it's different. It's not copying. Like there's originality there. The communities are doing original things, and to someone coming in, as a newcomer, they're experiencing what a DAO can do, and how a collective organizing force of a similar profile photo can permeate through all of their social networks, and they can feel like they belong to something, even if they're moving between Twitter and Reddit and Xbox Live. Like that's the powerful thing, and those communities are doing. I mean, they're not sitting around just asking what did CryptoPunks do and let's just copy that, right? I mean, it's inspired for sure, but it's a whole new product line. It's a whole new set of experiments, and it's diverging very quickly. So ETH OGs are, they're not paying attention to this stuff. It's like it's kind of crazy to me sometimes talking to people who obviously are loving their time, experimenting and continuing to be part of the culture of Ethereum, but they literally have no idea that these things even exist on Solana, right? Like they don't know that there are celebrities that are joining these communities. The communities are huge. The discords are giant. A lot of these people are experiencing crypto for the first time. I don't blame them because there's a lot going on in Ethereum. It's hard to keep track even of just what's happening in Ethereum. But like comparing it to the third NFT project that ever came up on Solana that was just a straight copy of something on Ethereum is like not focusing on the right thing. There's been 2,500 new NFT, like 10,000 NFT collections launched on Solana since that, right? So the world changes very quickly.
yeah, and I saw People Pleaser did one on Solana, which was really cool. I thought it's sort of like a gamified version, and yeah, you could kind of like get better NFTs if you bought all of them, and it was very fair the way that everything was priced. Like it was very cool. I thought the way it was structured. All right, so at this point, we're going to turn to a few questions that I got off Twitter when I told Twitter that I was going to be interviewing you guys. And some of these were kind of fun. One was, if the DAO happened today on Solana, meaning 14% of all SOL were stored in a contract and hacked, would you decide to rescue the funds, meaning to do a hard fork to do that? And what for your answer, why or why not?
That's a good question. I think under similar, I would say Solana validators would have to make that decision. The way that process would works is that there's like a, you know, proposal process to push PRs and then a feature activation in which the supermajority of the validators have to vote. And it's their decision to make those choices. Me personally, I would probably make the same decision as Vitalik in this like early ecosystem that I see this like tiny baby just about to walk and like get hit in the head with like I gotta save it, right? I gotta save this baby. But like we don't have the power to do so, and it's gonna be at the end of the day up to the validators and the folks that could shut it down are circle exchanges. A bunch of different participants could just say no, we don't want to accept this fork, and the community will figure it out.
And then there will be Solana Classic.
Maybe, who knows, right?
Well, that's what happened when the exchanges. Yeah.
I tend to agree with Vitalik that the ultimate power is in the hands of the people that are running these things. And the whole point of crypto is really to empower people. The way we can do that is with cryptography, giving them self-custody, giving them the ability to run nodes. And then those tools allow them to make these complex decisions and move stuff forward. But it's ultimately them that get to do it. It's like I don't worship the machine.
And
Raj, do you have an opinion on this?
I say let it ride. It's I mean the ledger is the ledger, and yeah, the validators get to decide whatever they want. If they wanted to roll back the ledger, then that's up to them. But I wouldn't be fighting, I think, to make that happen and create a fork and yeah. So I don't know. Maybe this is where we split totally.
Yeah. Well, I wouldn't be fighting to let that happen either. I think maybe. I think there's like I actually don't know how things went down with Ethereum, but there's this like legend that Vitalik wrote the code and it happened and pushed the change, and then like all this stuff spread. Right?
No, that's not what happened.
Yeah, exactly. So the fact is that like something catastrophic state failure is going to be up to the validators and all the different like people parts of the community. The best that we can do is just kind of guide them and say, like, based on my engineering analysis, if you made this pull request, I think it'll do the thing that you want, but I'm not going to be the one to push for it.
Okay. And Raj, just wanted to clarify, since, like I said, it would be 14% of all SOL, and there is a proof of stake element in Solana. So despite that still wouldn't kind of.
I would want to see what happens.
The percentage of the SOL that gets destroyed or gets locked up or frozen or whatever isn't that. It doesn't matter with regards to quorum selection or voting, because whatever amount of SOL you use for the quorum, it's some percentage of that is what matters, how the weight is distributed. So that actually doesn't have that much impact on the network itself.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll have to see if anything happens in that regard, and then who knows? Maybe afterward it'll be Raj in charge of Solana Classic and Anatoly in charge of Solana, or not in charge, but kind of the figurehead for Solana. So we'll see.
Who's the figurehead of Ethereum Classic? Is there one?
Wait, what?
Is there a figurehead for Ethereum Classic?
No, because it was kind of more the exchanges that drove the rise of that. So yeah, it wasn't like there was an Ethereum, one of the honchos that was driving that. So, but yeah, if the two co-founders on Solana split on this issue, then we could see that happen.
Let's do it.
If it means I get to stop working with Tolly, I'm in. Let's do it.
By the way, for people listening on the podcast, hilariously, they each kind of like raised their fist at each other when they were doing it. It was funny. But anyway, okay. So another question was about scaling. Someone tweeted at me, if the Sol single use case is that it has a higher throughput than ETH and Sol will kill ETH, what about Sol competitors like Cadena and Avex that claim a higher throughput than Sol? Will Cadena and Avex kill Sol? Is this a race to the bottom on throughput?
Not unless they implement Solana. So the way that we're scaling right now and the usage that you see right now, by sheer load of just the applications that are using the network, it's somewhere like 70 million transactions per day. And that's roughly around 700 TPS. That's more than all the other EVM chains combined. So, and that's just current load. That's not the capacity. So for the network to like hit capacity limits, for any congestion control to kick in, we have to have blocks that have more than half of the remaining capacity for fees to double. That's kind of like how our congestion control works. There's not a dynamic auction for who gets to go first. There's a governor that looks at, are you using 50% of the remaining capacity, then double the fees. So some of the spam bots go away, right? So at 25,000 TPS, that's running for, I think, 6 blocks or whatever, fees are going to double. Then at, 37 and a half, fees are going to double again. And, every time remaining capacity drops by half, fees double. So for that to happen, we still have a lot of ways to go in terms of like usage adoption, because it's expensive to generate that many valid transactions.
Okay. All right. Next Twitter question was from Tegan Klein of The Graph. She asked, what happens if Sam Bankman-Fried leaves the Solana ecosystem? And I was curious about this just because I'm not sure what his current involvement is. So why don't you illuminate us?
What is his involvement?
What is his current involvement? I
don't know. So we have an awesome relationship with those folks, but it's not it's because they move fast. This is what I'm trying to tell people is that of all the people in crypto that we worked with, the people that tend to end up in Solana are the ones that just no frills, want to get stuff done. And that's the foundation of that relationship. And it's really rare to find him. Sam is one of those people. He's like, okay, we want to build the stacks. Let's just move mountains to get it out. And us and them and everybody in the ecosystem moved those mountains. And now Serum has a bajillion startups are building on top of Serum now. So that happens because people just want to get stuff done. What does it mean for Sam to leave? He's not like a mercenary trader. He's a builder. Is he going to build Solana himself? He doesn't want to do that. It already exists, right? He wants to build products and get users to use stuff and have FTX grow. And those are the only reason he would leave and to go somewhere else is because we screwed something up and we stopped being hungry and we stopped building things, at that same pace. But likewise, if he's gets lazy, there's plenty of other there's plenty of other hungry people out there.
There's plenty of other crypto billionaires to
it's not, the money's never the problem, right? There's always an infinite amount of capital. Right now, especially, it's, do you have the drive to go build a product, to grind through all the pain points, get it to market, grow the user base? Those people are extremely rare, and the amount of capital when it grows, the number of those people stays constant, right? And this is why seed level valuations jump by factors of 5, in a matter of 6 months. This is why it's so hard to find those founders, and they're why growth is hard for the entire ecosystem, right? You think there's $2 trillion worth of capital floating around in crypto. Why can't we get people to use it? Money doesn't solve all those problems. You actually need to find really, really good people that build stuff. So so far, Sam wants to get 1 billion people into crypto. We want to get 1 billion people into crypto. If you're listening and this is your dream, just go start building, and we will end up in the same ecosystem because this is how hungry we are.
I think the world hasn't like caught up to exactly how many people are building on Solana and how big and fast growing the ecosystem is. Like the value that Sam brought by being ostensibly the highest profile, most visible, and most deep pocketed person that was able to stand up as a leader, inspiring others to build on the network, and that was maniacally focused on user experience and building something with crypto that normal people could access. That value can't be put back in the bottle. Like it's it already catalyzed hundreds of other teams and builders, and now I have more of those maniacal builders than I can keep count of. And like they're not all just sitting around saying, "Well, what's Sam going to do?" And where, what happens if he leaves? They're acquiring users. They're building products that have millions of users, right? Like they're thinking about how to get to 10 million users and 100 million users. Like it's living in the past to ask that kind of question.
All right. So just to wrap up, where do you hope to see Solana go in the next year?
1 year. Man, that's the hardest prediction to make. I can predict 6 weeks and 5 years.
All right. Well, give me the 5 years. I'm curious, like, what's your vision for what Solana will be at that time?
I think there's 100 million person DAO that's organizing capital, like very large capital allocation decisions, governance decisions that have real world impact, all on Solana.
I think there'll be many of those, not just but 100 million person DAO.
There's going to be at least 100 million person DAO.
Wow, within 5 years.
Easy.
Huh.
When that happens, right, like that shift, it's a hockey stick shift, right? As soon as people get it, it starts growing like wildfire, and it's a nonlinear thing. You're not going to see it happen like, oh my God, we're going to add 1 million people a month. It's going to be like hard work, blood, sweat, and tears, right? Like optimizations and UX on like use cases and all these things, and then all of a sudden, boom. So I think that boom is going to happen within 5 years.
Yeah. It's fascinating. I will say, DAOs definitely have captured my imagination, and I'm sure for a lot of people. But I think that is kind of what I'm most excited about coming up. All right. Well, where can people learn more about each of you and Solana Labs and Solana?
Twitter.com.
Yeah. Solana.com for like, especially if you're a DAO, there's links, documentation. There's going to be another hackathon. So just like stay tuned. If you want to know what I'm thinking every 30 seconds, follow me on Twitter.
Yakovenko is his, and Raj Gokal is my handle.
Okay, awesome. Thank you both so much for coming on Unchained.
Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. Bye.
Thanks so much for joining us today. To learn more about Anatoly, Raj, and Solana, check out the show notes for this episode. Unchained is produced by me, Laura Shin, with help from Anthony Yoon, Daniel Ness, and Mark Murdoch. Thanks for listening.